Hello 7.6. I hope this lesson comes to you and you are all feeling well and you've had a nice weekend and a great start to this week of home learning. So we've already started looking at our dystopian project, and last week we learnt what dystopian fiction was, what a dystopia was, and the difference between a dystopia and a utopia. So this week we're going to try and apply some of that knowledge to an extract of dystopian fiction. And we're going to look at the conventions that we learnt about, and create some storyboards. And if you've chosen a dystopian novel to read alongside this project, which was part of the challenge task, there is also a bonus task for you to do at the end of the lesson that comes under the challenge section. So let's have a look at this lesson. Sorry, it wouldn't move on then. Okay. So just to recap, a dystopia is an imagined world in which everything is unpleasant or bad and unequal, perhaps with evil people in or power, and it's a world that's close to destruction. So we looked at various conventions or things that we typically think of and we associate with dystopias, and I've just listed them down here in a table. So if you need to, just pause this video, take 5 minutes, recap on what we learnt from last week. So have a look at this table, quickly whiz through your notes, and once you're ready you can restart the video. So hopefully you restarted. I've got another do now for you to do, or a first do now. That was a recap. So I want you to think about the world we're living in at the moment. Now, we're not living in a dystopian world. Please remember, for those of you, if you have a nervous disposition or you're a worrier, this world is not close to destruction. However, there are all sorts of things going on in the world, particularly at the moment, that we could associate with a dystopian novel or dystopian fiction or a dystopian world, if we wanted to create one. So if we were going to create our own, we might include some of the events that are currently going on. So I want you to take 5 minutes and have a think. Can you think of any current or recent world events that could occur in a dystopian novel? And just list them down like you would do now in class. So either in the back of your book, or just on your laptop, if that's how you're doing things, just on a piece of paper. Maybe ask parents and carers, siblings. It's quite a nice discussion point. So maybe take 5 to 10 minutes to do that. When you're ready, come back. We'll have a look at some images and see if we've come up with some similar ideas. Okay, so hopefully you've had a discussion. So first of all, I came up with the current situation that we've all found ourselves in of a global pandemic. So we've got COVID-19. Luckily, touch wood, at the moment it seems like, although we've lost hundreds of thousands of people around the world, that we are beginning to get a grasp over things. Therefore, I don't think it's going to cause the destruction of the population and the world. But there certainly are novels and films about pandemics when this does occur. So the current COVID-19 pandemic, you could have thought of that one. Here we go. This fella, I don't know if anyone came up with him, Donald Trump. Personally, I don't think he's a great character. I think he's a catalyst for lots of problems that could occur in the world. Maybe controversial of me to say that, but I don't think so. I think we all have a similar viewpoint on that. And he certainly seems to propel controversial current affairs straight up into the into people's homes and worlds, and completely turn what we thought was normal on its head. So he doesn't ever seem to say the right thing. He shoots from the cuffs, so he uses his Twitter account to post what I feel is really controversial ideas and thoughts, and I think that can then trigger lots of ill feelings and, you know, possibly cause all sorts of things, such as the current riots that are going on in America. So obviously they were really triggered by the awful death of George Floyd, who's the black African American who was killed by the 4 policemen in Minneapolis. However, Donald Trump definitely has not helped that situation. He said some really inflammatory comments at the very start of people demonstrating, which I do believe did not help the situation, and probably added smoke to and flames to an already very passionate and angry group of people, which has then caused people to go on and not only protest but riot in some cities. So some dystopian worlds and fictions we see about rioting. So that was an example of the current situation. This one over here was a little while ago actually, and it was really awful, and I know we discussed it in class about the wildfires in Australia. So there we've got a picture of an image of a kangaroo. You can see its silhouette in front of a burning building. So the wildfires in Australia, many very educated people believe that it's caused by global climate change and the rising temperatures of our earth. So you know, that could be another feature in a dystopian novel. If we're not looking after the world that we live in, are we then going on to destroy it? So there's one. And a couple of others that you may not have thought of yourselves, but maybe some grown-ups might have come up with, is since in recent times where COVID has kind of taken over, and the awful death of George Floyd, and the highlighting of racism has come to the forefront. I think the conflict in Syria has really been less of a feature in the news, but it's still going on. It's been going on for at least 6 years now. I'm not exactly sure how long, but they have what we would class as a dictator, so a ruler that has extreme power, that doesn't listen to what his people want, and ultimately is destroying his own country to stay in power. So millions of people have had to flee from Syria and are living all around the world at the moment, and many lives are lost and affected. So we've got the current civil war in Syria. And then finally this one. This is occasionally mentioned in the news. It certainly hasn't been very recently. But this is a country called Yemen. You may well have not even heard of it. And they are currently experiencing a famine, which is where there is just simply not enough food. Crops aren't growing, they can't get food into the country. Tens of thousands of people are starting to die and are very unwell. They haven't got the infrastructure, so the roads, the schools, the hospitals, the government structures to support them. And this has been going on for some time as well now. So we've got a famine and a lot of civil unrest in Yemen, which is very forgotten about and in the background of all of these other things that are going on in the world. So luckily, you could say, many of these things are fairly localised. So although they're very awful and life-changing and destructive, sorry, for the people that are living in these countries or the areas of the world that these individual events are happening. So the wildfires, the civil unrest, the civil wars, rioting, famines. At the moment, they're not going on all over the globe, so it's not a massive global situation. They're fairly localised. So therefore, I don't think they're going to lead us into a dystopian world now. However, it's good to see how we can link the things that we learn about in English in our fictionary novels into real world events. So I did a lot of waffling there, but there you go. Okay, need another coffee. So we're now going to start reading the extract from dystopian fiction, and this extract's from There Will Come Soft Rains by Ray Bradbury. So what I want you to do, I'm going to read this and you can listen along or read along with me. And I want you to make mental pictures as we go, which people usually do anyway as we read stories, such as how we visualise things. And particularly look for action words to identify the plot of the story. And these will be shown through verbs and adverbs that then propel the plot forward. So you're going to be looking for action words particularly, and I want you to note any down. So I would probably put a table with 2 columns, One side verbs, one side adverbs. So verb is a doing word. An adverb describes how you do that word, so quickly, slowly, okay, and note them down as we go. So maybe just draw that table, and then when you're ready, restart the video and we will begin reading There Will Come Soft Rains. So, in the living room the voice clock sang, tick tock, 7 o'clock, time to get up, 7 o'clock, as if it were afraid nobody would. The morning house lay empty. The clock ticked on, repeating and repeating its sounds into the emptiness. 7-9, breakfast time, 7-9. In the kitchen, the breakfast stove gave a hissing sigh and ejected from its warm interior 8 pieces of perfectly brown toast, 8 eggs sunny side up, 16 slices of bacon, 2 coffees and 2 cool glasses of milk. Today is August 4th, 2026, said a second voice from the kitchen ceiling. In the city of Allendale, California, it repeated the date 3 times for memory's sake. Today is Mr. Featherstone's birthday. Today is the anniversary of Tilicia's marriage. Insurance is payable, as are the water, gas and light bills. Somewhere in the walls, relays clicked. Memory tapes glided under electric eyes. 8-1, tick-tock, 8-1 o'clock. Off to school, off to work, run, run, 8-1. But no doors slammed. No carpets took the soft tread of rubber heels. It was raining outside. The weather box on the front door sang quietly, rain, rain, go away, rubbers, raincoats for today. And the rain tapped on the empty house, echoing. Outside the garage chimed and lifted its doors to reveal the waiting car. After a long wait, the doors swung down again. At 8:30, the eggs were shriveled and the toast was like stone. An aluminium wedge scraped them down, a metal throat which digested and flushed them away to the distant sea. The dirty dishes were dropped into a hot washer and emerged, twinkling dry. 9:15 sang the clock. Time to clean. Out of warrens in the wall, tiny robot mice darted. The rooms were cruel with the small cleaning animals, all rubber and metal. They thudded against the chairs, whirling their moustached runners, kneading the rug nap, suckling gently at hidden dust. Then, like mysterious invaders, they popped into their burrows. Their pink electric eye faded. The house was clean. 10 o'clock. The sun came out from behind the rain. The house stood alone in a city of rubble and ashes. This was the one house left standing. At night, the ruined city gave off a radioactive glow which could be seen for miles. 10:15. The garden sprinklers whirled up in golden founts, filling the soft morning air and scattering of brightness. With a scattering of brightness, the water pelted window panes, running down the charred west side where the house had been burned, evenly free of its white paint. The entire west face of the house was black, save for 5 places. Here the silhouettes in paint of a man mowing a lawn. Here, as in a photograph, a woman bent to pick flowers. Still farther on, their images burned on wood in one titanic instant. A small boy, hands flung into the air. Higher up, the image of a thrown ball, and opposite him, a girl, hand raised to catch a ball, which never came down. The 5 spots of paint, the man, the woman, the children, the ball, remained. The rest was a thin charcoal layer. The gentle sprinkler rain gently filled the garden with failing light. Until this day, how well the house had kept its peace. How carefully it had inquired, who goes there? What's the password? And getting no answer from the only foxes and whining cats, it had shut up its windows and drawn shades in an old maidenly preoccupation with self-protection which bordered on a mechanical paranoia. It quivered at each sound. The house did. If a sparrow brushed a window, the shade snapped up. The bird, startled, flew off. No, not even a bird must touch the house. The house was an altar with 10,000 attendants, big, small, servicing, attending, in choirs. but the gods had gone away, and the ritual of the religion continued, senselessly, uselessly. So if you feel that you need to, just pause the video, go back and read through the extract, so from slides A to D, or re-listen to me reading it. You can mute me if you want while you read through, that's fine. So hopefully you wrote down various verbs and adverbs in your table. What I'd like you to do after you've reread or listened to the extract is choose 3 words from that extract that you didn't understand, and then use a dictionary if you have one at home, or Google, use the Google dictionary to find the definitions of those words. So for example, if you heard invaders or read invaders and you weren't sure of that word, look it up and then write me a sentence using it. So I'd like 3 sentences using 3 words that you didn't understand. If you understood all of them, maybe just use 3 more complex words and write down some sentences for that. So we've got a good word here, which I said wrongly as I was reading, preoccupation. So that's a really nice word. Maybe you could come up with that one. Some sentences for that. We've got the word paranoia here. Which was another one in here that I quite like. So we've got charcoal. You could maybe look up scatterings, create some sentences for that. So there's lots of various words that you might have been unsure of. Look them up, come up with some sentences. So once you've completed those 2 mini tasks from task 1, we've got a second task. So I now want you to read through, and although you probably can't highlight or underline unless you've been able to print off the extract, which I will attach in a separate document on Go for School, so you'll have that. I'd like you to note down any parts of the extract that show you that this novel is set in a dystopian society. So you need to identify 3 features or conventions of dystopian fiction and then include the quotes. So I would do another little table like down here with the 2 columns. So one that says convention or feature, and the next column for your quote. So say you chose the feature of the world was close to destruction. You might then choose the quote, radioactive glow, which could be seen for miles. Now, I don't want you to really use the one that I've got, so write down my example, and then you probably want another 3. So you should then have 4 rows with information on your table. So you'll have my one example there, plus another 3. Just to re-jog your memory with what those features are, we've got them on the right here, and then also you could look back at your notes or go back to the second slide of this lesson, and we have them on there. So in this yellow box here, we've got that the world's close to destruction, places that are under heavy surveillance or citizens being monitored all the time, that the places were controlled by technology, for example robots. There's lots of examples of that. Fear, trust in technology and science, again lots of examples for that. Power and survival. So I would say most of those you could find an example of in that extract. So have a go at that. That should take you probably a good half an hour, 20 minutes to half an hour to do well. Now your third and final task, which should take you a bit longer, so around about an hour, maybe more if you want to put lots of effort into this, which would be lovely. I want you to finish reading or listening to the extract of Dystopian Fiction, There Will Come Soft Rains, by Ray Bradbury, and design your own storyboard based on this fiction. So if you want to listen to it, which I would recommend, I would use the link below. Again, I'll put this link on to Go for Schools to listen to the rest of the extract, and then create a storyboard. So storyboard with 6 frames, so as you can see on the right here. So you're going to want an image of what's happening at that part in your novel, and then a description above or below as to what's going on in your image. So you want 6 of those, please. So your first one could be the clock that's just repeating itself and there's no one there, and how the breakfast starts arriving in the kitchen. You could draw some of the elements that it comments on in the extract. Okay, so lots of them sounded like very technological, robotic kitchen equipment that was producing the breakfast. So you could illustrate those. Again, we've got a picture here of those silhouettes that were on the charcoal wall of the family. Quite a haunting image, really. You could easily do that one. That would be a nice one. And then as you go on and listen to the rest of the extract on the YouTube clip, you'll have some more frames that you can then go on to draw. So that should take you about an hour, I would say, to do really well. Now, if you are one of those challenge or extra task students that's chosen to do a little bit extra, you should now have chosen your dystopian novel to read alongside the scheme of work. And I'd now like you to do this. So last week you hopefully created a fact file about your book. This week I'd like you to create a quiz. So create 10 to 15 quiz type questions based on your chosen book. Remember to write down the answers. So you could choose multiple choice. You could choose an image quiz. So I've given an example of down here. So your question might be, what dystopian novel am I reading? So you might draw a picture of a maze and somebody running, and that would be Maze Runner. So that's your image quiz. So where you put some images together and they create the name or a phrase, or they're basically the clue to the answer of your question. Or open-ended questions. So it could be, what time did the garage doors open? And you don't give a multiple choice. You just give an open-ended question. If that was about, if your book that you'd chosen was the extract that we just read for instance. Sorry, I should make that clear. So 10 to 15 quiz questions with the answers about the book that you've chosen to read. So this will all be due 1 week today, which will be Tuesday the 23rd of June already. I will attach all the documents that you will need on To Go for Schools. I'll try and find as well, I think I have on my laptop, a blank storyboard Word document that you can then print off if you have access to a printer, which might make life easier, or you could just do it on your laptop, although you'd have to somehow, draw, I don't know. If it's there, you can use it if you can get to it. If not, then you can absolutely draw it freehand. Make sure it's neat. So due on the 23rd of June, I'll attach all the documents on To Go, put the information on Teams. Any questions, let me know, and I wish you all well.